fans, do you want to win your share of $100,000? Simply enter the houseofboxing.com Fight Night Prediction Challenge. Compete with boxing fans around the world. Simply head over to houseofboxing.com and sign up now.
Matt Lenihan Boxing Social in association with houseofboxing.com, Empire Fight Store, being joined again by Frank Smith. Frank, bit of a spicy way, and a few of them were close to kicking off. What do you make of it?
It's what we need, mate. It's what we need. We spoke about it yesterday at the press conference. The bit of fire and spite between them, it's only going to build up the fight, so it's good to see.
How refreshing is it? Because we normally see the shows like the Next Gen shows or the ones where the youngsters are coming through, and they can sort of be sometimes, even though they're a great fight, and if you're a boxing fanatic you get into it, they sometimes do lack that bit of need or that bit of something. But we're slowly seeing that now, and the North East seems to be the place to be.
100%. And look, this is what sets them up for those nights to come. You know, when they come through these Next Gen shows into our big shows, they're ready. They've experienced it. They've experienced the back and forth in press conference. They've experienced a little go on the stage. You know, and it's good to see. And all of it, look, I'm not saying we want to tear up on the stage every week between every fight, but at least something between them. There needs to be something, because that's what gets you up for a fight.
100%. Look, there's some news that came out, I think, just after we had the press conference yesterday. Terence Crawford stripped of his IBF belt and Jaron Ennis elevated. What do you make of that? Obviously, I think Spence was trying to have a rematch and that belt's now been taken off. Do you think that's a little bit unfair?
Yeah, I mean, look, he only won it, when did he win it? 3.5, 4 months ago?
Yeah.
It's not really that long. It's not like he sat there keeping the belt. Yeah, but, you know, maybe there's more detail behind it. Who knows? Maybe they've been having conversations behind the scenes. Yeah. Maybe there was something in place before that fight that, you know, we're not aware of. But yeah, interesting.
What do you make of Jaron Ennis? Because I feel like we've got to talk to you about him. Obviously, pound for pound, everyone talks about he's one of the next ones coming through. I feel like he needs that statement victory. But what do you make of him as somebody who obviously looks to sign fighters and things like that?
Yeah, look, he's obviously built a name for himself. He's got great talent. But like you say, he needs that one fight that really sets him apart, I think. Because he probably hasn't really had that yet. And you know, I think that's what he'll be looking to do next. It's interesting times, obviously, with all of the talk around BBC, the Showtime exit, etc. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
Jake Paul's next opponent. What do you know about him? He's a seasoned professional. You know, everyone was asking him about fighting a professional. He's now fighting one again. Obviously, Tommy Fury as well. But what do you make of Jake and what he's doing?
I don't know anything about Andre August, to be honest. I saw it. I don't. Honestly, it's not to be funny. I don't actually know whether he's any good. He could be as good as me. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, no, that means how bad I am. I don't know. I honestly can't really answer in terms of my thoughts on Andre August as an opponent. I think what Jake Paul's doing is quite sensational. What he's done. You know, he's made an absolute fortune. He's brought a new fan base to the sport. He's done well for a lot of fighters. So yeah, but let's see what happens on December 15th.
I've seen some rumblings online. We were talking yesterday about the 23rd in Saudi. One of the fights that's been put to me is Martin Bakole, Deontay Wilder. What do you make of that stylistically as a matchup? So Martin's coming off a victory. Deontay's been a little inactive. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, I think it would obviously be a great fight. I can't see it myself. I can't see
that getting made for Saudi, no?
I can't see Deontay because no one really knows who Martin Bakole. No disrespect to Martin Bakole, but it's a sort of a no-win fight in reality. He's a very good fighter, but
that'd not be a big no-win for Martin. That'd be a good fight for Martin, would it not?
Oh yeah, great fight for Martin. But what I mean is, for Deontay Wilder in the position he's in now, I would expect. I don't know. We don't represent Deontay Wilder, that he'd want to go into those big fights, but. You know, let's see. I think there's about 100 fights being rumoured for that show.
Look, Katie Taylor's coming up in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a historic night there in Dublin. The last one, by all accounts, was amazing. It's a hugely important fight for both girls. Chantelle Cameron wants to prove a point that she can do it again. How much is on the line for Katie, especially at this stage of her career?
Yeah, look, 100%. You know, that first fight was a brilliant fight. Chantelle Cameron, all respect to her, she went to Dublin and she won that fight. You know, she boxed brilliantly, and it was an amazing fight between those two. And you know, she's going back there to defend her titles. Katie Taylor's got, you know, it's a big pressure moment for Katie Taylor. So I can't wait for it. The first fight really delivered, and I think this fight will be even better. And respect to both of them. You know, Chantel's going back to Dublin. She's done amazing things in the sport already. And you know, if she beats Katie Taylor again, that really cements her legacy as in a position. And I think if, you know, Katie Taylor's got it all riding on this one, I'd say now.
great fights on the undercard as well, particularly like Gary Cully, Reece Mould. When you look at that fight, Gary Cully coming off that defeat, Reece Mould sort of riding high a little bit. I know his fight got cancelled on the GBM show, but bounced his way into a mega one on that. What a fight to make. How sort of pleased are you when you look at that support for the main event with the good fights that are on?
Yeah, 100%. Gary Cully, Reece Mould, as you say, is a brilliant fight and an important fight. I always say when Gary Cully boxed on that undercard last time, it was probably one of the best atmospheres I've ever seen.
The ring walk, wasn't it?
Yeah, even better than the main event. Like, I think that atmosphere when Gary Cully ring walked was something like, I don't know whether it was the music, I don't know what it was, but there was something special about it. And you know, look, Gary's got a lot of pressure on him because he could be that next star of Dublin. You know, whatever happens with Katie, it's probably a couple of years she's probably got left. But Gary can really take that position and headline. Look, we see the fan base there. We see that the opportunities are there, so we want to go back as much as possible. Gary's got to get through this fight, a lot of pressure on himself. So yeah, great to see that fight on there. You've obviously got Paddy Donovan as well.
Yeah,
in a brilliant fight.
What do you make of Paddy? He was one of the first fighters I covered when I started this job, and he looked like he was almost ahead of his time in terms of a seasoned pro, and he'd only had a few fights.
Yeah, no, he's a brilliant fighter. You know, he's got a tough fight as well on that show. You've got Thomas Carty as well. Sky Nicholson in the step up, Emmett Brennan, you know, so there's some great fights on that show.
Go on to the week after, let's just lightly touch on this one because I think there's some fights on this card which are incredible. Michael Conlan, Jordan Gale. Before we talk about that main event, you've Lewis Crocker and Tyrone McKenna. I've told everybody that's just going to be utter, you know, an absolute bloodbath. What do you make of that card? And obviously it's a terrific main event. There's big implications for both as well in that.
Yeah, look, tremendous undercard and great job by Jamie Conlan as well because he made a few of those fights beforehand. You know, you've got a Gyarko as well against Troy Williamson. Is another brilliant fight. And like you say, the main event itself is such an important fight for both of their careers. And you've got two guys in there really with no quit in Michael Conlan and Jordan Gill, as in like they're going to give it everything. You've got to make Michael Conlan the favourite in that fight, but we've seen Jordan Gill, some of the performances he's had, and I think it's another one of those where we could have looked at an international opponent for Michael Conlan, right? But it wouldn't have really built the hype that this has. You know, this is going to be, especially in fight week as well, probably one of the best cards. You know, in terms of depth of great fights. You know, we're going to see, so it's exciting.
I heard you reference an interview. I think it might have been with ourselves with Charlie. Obviously, Joe Cordina's looking for a big fight. There's obviously Leigh Wood knocking around now. He stepped up, but the winner of Conlan Gill, especially obviously with someone's following like Michael's. You know, is that a fight him and Cordina you would look at? And obviously, this isn't writing Jordan off because it's a terrific fight. But is that for either of them a fight that you consider?
100%, and that sort of around that 126, 130 division, there's so many big fights to be made. You know, you've got 4, 5, 6 fights, all big sellers as well, and fights people are interested in. You know, we saw how big Warrington against Wood was. You know, it was great build up, had everything in that fight, and I think they're the kind of fights we need to focus on delivering. And there's so many out there to do.
Last one from me, Leigh Wood. Obviously, he wants that City Ground dream, but like you just mentioned there, Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington, obviously Michael and obviously Jordan are having that fight regardless. But there's such a little round robin you could do, and I think it's been muted for years. That could be the best thing to do. But Leigh Wood's next opponent, are we looking at Josh Warrington rematch? Where are we currently at?
Look, I think that's definitely probably one of the biggest commercial fights there is, and I think there's also still the storyline there. You know, Josh Warrington obviously feels like it shouldn't have been stopped, as do a number of people. Leigh Wood, spectacular. Like Josh Warrington was well ahead in that fight. Leigh Wood has always found a way. You know, as he seems to do every single time. So I think there's a big storyline still to be told there. So, you know, but there's other fights as well. It doesn't mean it's set in stone, but I do think that's one of the favourites right now.
Okay, your prediction on Demetrius Andrade and Benavidez. Obviously, Andrade's been looking for a big fight for years. He's finally getting that chance now. Terrific fight. What do you think happens?
Haven't really thought much about it. Probably an Andrade win. It's a shame it's on pay-per-view, I'd say, because it doesn't feel like it's a big enough fight. No disrespect. It doesn't feel like it's a big enough fight and there's enough of a storyline between the two of them and they're not really going for it. I'd quite easily forget that fight was happening, really, is the unfortunate truth. And I work in boxing.
No worries. Look, Frank, appreciate your time. Thanks for being generous with it. Catch up after the fight.
Cheers, mate.